Ready on the count three. 1, 2, 3. Nice, that's very dollar. Anyway, so we're going to be here for a while. Split away from photo pose. It looks like you're going to sing me a song, and I'd like to hear it, but not right now. All right. So someone has asked some very good questions. Split away a little bit. We're going to be here for 5 minutes. Some people have asked some good questions. One of the good questions was, Ryan, where's cheap to eat? Where's cheap to go out? The cheapest place to eat and drink is in a place called Tallinn, and it's only 375 kilometres that way in a country called Estonia. But you're not in Estonia, you're in Sweden, and we don't have a thing called local price and tourist price. We've just got a thing called price, and everyone has to deal with it. If you took 500 Swedish crowns out of that ATM there, it should last on average about 8 hours in the old town. After this, if you're hungry, you read a menu and you see a hamburger, 160 crowns. I think that's a pretty fair price for a sit-down meal in the old town. It's about 16 quid, 16 euros, about 20 bucks US. I don't know what it is in Turkish lira. Not much, okay? There we go. Yeah, anything over 161, I'm out. 160, I'm in. Pint of beer, anything less than 70 crowns, pretty good value. At the end of the day, at the end of the tour, you tell me what you want to see. Museum, bar, restaurant, anything like that. I'll do my best to try and find the best places for you. Let's leave it to the end. This park here, it's called Kungsträdgården. I'll probably pronounce that Kungsträdgården, here we go. King's Tree Garden, garden full of trees that belonged to someone called the King. This was a private king's garden until 1797, then it was opened up to the public. Back in the day, when this garden was just for the king, there used to be a king called Gustav, another Gustav III. But there are 5 generations between Gustav II and Gustav III. On one of those rare 15 sunny days a year here in Stockholm, we would have found Gustav under the tree, under the sun, writing operas. He was the best opera writer of his day, but he was a very pretentious king. He never wanted to be seen without a hair out of place. He had a team of people that dressed and undressed him for the entirety of his life. They say he never dressed or undressed himself ever. For the fact he liked to sit outside in the sun and always worried about his appearance. Out of the hundreds of paintings I could show you of Gustav III, I've handpicked this one. This highlights it is possible to get sunburnt in this city, and if you are to write operas under your tree, take your sunglasses off, otherwise you get white goggle eyes like Gustav III. So, apart from being sunburnt, did he leave his mark in Swedish history? The short answer is yes. Now, he found out he was going to be King of Sweden in 1772. In fact, he's enjoying some vacation in this nice town called Paris. More specifically, he's enjoying a night at the opera in Paris. One of these waving messengers found him at the opera and said, Gustav, we have some very bad news. Your father's dead, but on the upside, you're about to be King of Sweden. Very ironic, if you ask me, he found out he's going to be King of Sweden at the opera. I just told you, he liked to write operas. He thought his life was one gigantic opera, and he was assassinated at the Swedish Opera House, this building here, 16th of March, 1792. Who would want to assassinate the King of Sweden? Well, in 1772, when he became king, but at that stage, Sweden had done something politically progressive to the rest of Europe. Yes, the king was still the apex of society's pyramid, but the king held little or zero political power. Since the year of 1250 until 1772, all the power lay with the social class below the king. They called themselves the House of Nobility. First thing Gustav III did in his dramatic way was take all the power off the nobility, gave most of it to himself, redistributed the rest out to the peasant class. This annoyed the nobility, so much so that for the last 10 years of Gustav III's life, the House of Nobility had failed attempts to assassinate this king. But like all successful assassinations, they only worked the last time you try it. After 10 years, they got their man. It gets worse. After 10 years, they got their man. I like to think after 10 years of failure, the House of Nobility set themselves around a big round table. Very similar to what marketing teams do today. They're always brainstorming ideas. How do we kill the king? I don't know, but he likes the opera. Perfect. We have a venue. Now we needed an event. They brainstormed some more, and they decided to host a masked masquerade ball. Theme of the dress, wear a mask. Perfect, conceal your identity. Gustav III got this invitation to this masked masquerade ball, and the people close to him said, Gustav, why would you go to this event if the guest list are the people that have been trying to kill you for 10 years and yourself? He took his chances. He went to this event. What happened? Well, he died, but before he died, he was given the whole second floor to get ready. He had a team of people putting his mask, his wig on. He was having the last bit of his dinner. Someone left a handwritten note at the end of the table, and it warned the king, if the king goes downstairs, tonight he will die. This is why I love reading history so much. This was a massive turning point, hindsight moment, and that's why history is awesome. Of According to the reports, the king got ready. The same reports added he looked very great. Didn't help him really. But yes, the king got ready, looking quite great, and he said in his dramatic way, "I'm king of Sweden, they won't kill me, not tonight, not at the opera." The same reports said the king then stood at the top of the staircase, made his big king-like entrance into the ballroom. The band announced the king was walking down the steps. If you ever walk into a room and you know those people are trying to kill you, may I suggest you leave your trumpeteers at home, be more discreet as you make your entrance. He wasn't, and a team of nobility surrounded him like so. Someone took a pistol to the top of his left hip. They fired a bullet which consisted of metal shrapnel and tacks. It took 13 days for the king to painfully die of blood poisoning. Painfully die he did, but he died with all the political power. The House of Nobility were back to square one. They needed the next king to be someone young, someone they can manipulate. When this king comes of age, he can sign that power back to the nobility. Lucky for them, Gustav III had a very young heir to the Swedish throne. His name was Gustav the... Thank you very much. Someone said yesterday, was it Richard the Lionheart? Oh no! 1, 2, 3, 4. There, Gustav IV. He was only 8 years old when his dad was brutally assassinated. I like this painting. You're going to see a young, innocent, happy boy. Well, this innocent, happy boy became Sweden's worst ever warrior king in terms of territory loss. Think about that when you see this kid. The year was 1808. Gustav IV had been king of Sweden for a while. He started a family feud with one of his cousins, but this cousin was a Tsar of Russia. Now, Russia retaliated and took what is now known as Finland. You see, Sweden and Finland, one of these very nice, happy unions, this time for about 500 odd years. And if this was a very bad map of Sweden's realm back then, one of these O's could be Stockholm. Here is Finland. The Russians came in, took Finland from the east. For the first time, we were a vulnerable border town from the east. 12 months later, things weren't going so well publicly for Gustav IV. In a way, to drum up positive PR, he tried to start a war with our friends down south in Denmark. Normally, historically, that was fine, but Denmark had sided with the most powerful man in Europe in 1809. That was Napoleon. I don't think you should start wars with Russia ever, and you should not start wars with Napoleon at the height of his powers. A French-led Danish army took the south part of Sweden, also took Norway from the west. Stockholm surrounded east-southwest. House of Nobility declared Gustav IV mentally insane, quote, for starting wars with Napoleon at the height of his powers. They tricked the king into signing a document that made him abdicate. Once he'd abdicated, he was arrested on grounds of being mentally unfit. All the heirs to the Swedish throne also arrested because Gustav IV was crazy. They were sent out to Germany. That's the last time we ever saw or heard of that side of the royal family. 12 months later, yes, Sweden had a king, but Sweden had 0 heirs to the Swedish throne. For the one and only time in Swedish history, the House of Nobility looked outside of Sweden for someone to take what I think is the best job in this country, that is King of Sweden. The nobility thought that Sweden's interest either A, laid with the Russians, or B, laid with the French. I'll tell you who they sided with. We're going to go outside the royal palace for this last little bit. We've got 3 minutes left. Come over this way.